The Plainville Board of Education, preparing students for success in a changing global society.
Good evening, everyone. We'd like to bring the Board of Ed meeting to order, but first we'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, so if everybody could please stand. Kathy, could you please start? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Brummett, if you could please proceed.
I will start the meeting with my Everyday Hero presentations. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to start, tonight is the first Everyday Heroes of the school year, so it's very exciting for us. The first Everyday Hero is Christina Kiley. She was nominated by Melissa Orfatelli, who couldn't be here tonight because she has a doctor appointment. She's having a baby soon. But she sends her regrets, but luckily she left me with notes about why she nominated you. Christina Kiley, and as folks know, Melissa Orfatelli is our new assistant principal at the elementary school, at Linden Elementary, as well as the middle school. Christina Kiley has jumped right into supporting Linden this year. She has shared her expertise with our administrative team, leading to a restructuring of our behavior interventions and student supports. She has also introduced herself as a coach and mentor to our staff. She will be offering monthly behavior professional developments for our grade level teachers, aiding in an effort to meet the demands of our changing population at Linden. Christina is an invaluable resource. As an aside, I recently had the opportunity to read a behavior plan that Christina developed to benefit one of our students, and this is something that I read. And the analysis and the supporting details of that plan are unbelievable and are designed to help that student have a successful school year in spite of some behavioral challenges. So Miss Christina Kiley is our first Everyday Hero of the 2018-19 school year. Congratulations, Christina. And here's your official certificate. Oh, and right on time is our photographer. You want to have your family come up? Come on, family. Dan. Thank you. No problem. We're going to go right in front of the Plainville posters. Do you want to come up, Ms. Hardy? Thank you. All right. Our second Everyday Hero actually has to be plural, Everyday Heroes. And we have a slew of folks that have been nominated by Mr. Andrew Batchelder, principal of Wheeler Elementary School. He has nominated Steve Bussell, Scott Martin, Terry Archer, John Procco, Mike Dixon, Jim Dossett, and Alex North. Did I catch everybody, Mr. Batchelder? Took them right from your nomination form. Beginning last June, these hardworking Plainville professionals have been integral into the beginning stages of the Wheeler renovation project, making sure all boxes were packed up and ready for teachers. Furniture was moved out of classrooms and into the gym by the end of June, and it was an extraordinary feat, and I couldn't agree more. We were scheduled to hire a private moving company to do this work, but under the direction of Steve Bussell and Scott Martin, they elected to get it done themselves in addition to their typical daily responsibilities. This decision saved the district thousands of dollars, and also make communication among all stakeholders clearer and more effective, tackling these missions themselves. Mr. Batchelder refers to most things like this as missions. His military background has come in very handy for this renovation project. So let's see here. Most recently, during the week of August 20th, these gentlemen were able to move all the boxes and furniture back into Wheeler. They built shelves and swing spaces and revamped our book room and supply closet, providing the greatest amount of accessibility possible for teachers and students. While there is a lot more renovation work to be done over the next few years, we are very fortunate to have Steve, Scott, and their staffs in our district as they tackle anything and everything to get this work done in a timely manner. So I'd like to invite up those gentlemen that were just named for your recognition. Congratulations. All right. I don't think everyone's here. There's Steve. Jen. Oh, sure. Mike. Scott. Alan. And John. You want to come over here and get your picture taken? Did any of you bring your families with you tonight? And Mr. Batchelder? No, you don't want to be? I know, I just invited her up. Are we good, Ms. Graham Douglas? Now smile, nice guy. Great, thank you very much. And just a reminder, we have an Everyday Hero nomination process that's available online, and we typically honor 1 or 2 heroes at every board meeting, so the community or any member of our faculty or staff is able to nominate someone who makes the district a better place, and that's the criteria. So with that, we will go back to our Board of Ed regular meeting.
We need to have a request for, a motion for the request of the approval of the minutes. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Chairman, I request approval of minutes of the board special meeting of September 18th, which was the policy subcommittee meeting.
Second. All in favor? And now we will go to citizens' comments. If there are any citizens that would like to comment, please step up to the microphone. John Kislick.
John Kislick, 65 Forestville Avenue. I've got to use my notes tonight. I'm glad the meeting was one day later because I just got back on Saturday from a 10-day holiday in Kauai, Hawaii. So it's a little rough trip. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up, every time I go away on vacation, I read all the newspapers, see what I can relate to what's happening in Plainville or the state of Connecticut. And I got a few things. I gave a packet to Assistant Superintendent LePage to share with Superintendent. Anyway, one of the things I found that has nothing to do with you guys is that the Board of Education, town councils there have term limits, and I think we need that in Plainville. The other thing with the Board of Ed, on October 2nd, teachers all across the Hawaii Islands had a walk-in, not a walk-out. This was on all the islands. They came to the schools from 7 to 7:45 a.m. with protests and boards, cards. What they did in Hawaii somehow, they have a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November. I don't know how they did it. Some of the politicians tried to stop it, but a judge approved it. So they're going to vote on this constitutional amendment which will give additional funding to education. Because in Hawaii, here's some of the statistics. Hawaii is ranked last in teacher pay and 45th in per pupil expenditures. And the Teachers Association across the whole state has 13,700 teachers. And they were asking the public to support schools and children by voting yes on a constitutional amendment for a surcharge on certain property to support education. And when I came home, saying things relate, I read that Superintendent Bromett is appointed to a commission to look into things like this. So what I was thinking, I gave all the paper articles. I don't know how Connecticut's constitution is or our charter, but if there's a way, you have the numbers. If it takes signatures between all the teachers and everybody involved in education, the parents and all, this is something they probably could get a constitutional amendment to for some kind of funding, some kind of plan. And I'm sure there's people that are pretty sharp in the education department that can come up with something. And if the thing is that with education in Connecticut, when the lottery started, I believe it was supposed to be 100% for education. And of course, the politicians took that away. It gets in the general fund. But I'm thinking it could be all wrong, but with this new advisory commission, maybe there's something that could be done to come up with some kind of constitutional amendment in the state of Connecticut. And I wanted to bring that to you so that maybe it could be brought to the new commission and see what happens. You know, a lot of you people think that I'm anti-education. I'm not anti-education. What we have to do is find other additional funding instead of constantly increasing property taxes. And it's the state's responsibility to educate our children. And if they weren't wasting so much money and squandering it on other things, they should support education more. So that's why I'm before you tonight, just to bring this up and see if there's something between you and State Board of Ed and all your lobbyists and everything, see if that could be brought up. Thank you.
I think we have a few more citizen comments.
Hi, my name is Amy Miller, and I am here to talk about the indoor track team. I believe that we should have it because it is something that will bring the team together. If they do both indoor track and outdoor track, it will better the team bonding experience, and it will also improve the strength of the members of the team. They will be stronger in the indoor season, and then that will carry out to the outdoor season. So, thank you.
And I'm Emily Roy, and I also think that it would improve the performance of outdoor track, because if you think about it, well, this applies to the athletes who run both cross country and track. If you run cross country in the fall and then you take the whole winter off, it would make track, the first couple weeks of track, hard to get in shape, and the performance of the first couple meets wouldn't be so good. And whereas if we don't take the winter off, we would already be in shape, so it would make the first couple weeks greatly improved.
I'm Allie Chambrello, and the indoor track program gives students who run cross country and track the chance to be 3-season athletes, and that's a huge benefit to a lot of kids. And like they said, it just helps you keep your strength up during the off season, because with running, it's hard to get back into it after you've had so much time off. And it's just something to look forward to during the winter, gets kids active, keeps them in shape, stuff like that. Thank you.
Good evening, Kathy Puglisi, 50 West Broad Street. It's nice to be back. I apologize for missing September's meeting, but I'll give you a brief run-up as to what we've been doing over at the Town Council. A lot of information recently regarding our water pollution control plant. This is a project that has been talked about for several years, and by several, I mean beyond 6 or 7 years. We have been compelled by the State Regulatory Commission as well as the Federal Water Pollution Control Authorities to make certain upgrades to our water pollution control plant. And now the time has come to do that. I was at the groundbreaking ceremony this morning. The reason we are compelled to do this is we have to keep our phosphorus emission levels at a very low level. And the only way to do this is to upgrade our plant, to introduce new chemical treatments there. This water gets discharged into the Pequabic River, and that has been identified as a river that needs to make sure that the water that is being discharged into it is not contaminated with effluent that comes out of not just our water pollution control plant, but Southington is doing this, Bristol is doing it. There's a number of cities and towns in Connecticut that are participating in this upgrade to their plants. So today I went to the groundbreaking event, and just a little information regarding the cost of the project. It's a $15.1 million project. The funding from this has to come from our water pollution control funds. It is not part of our general fund, as is with many of our other projects, such as funding education, funding the police department, funding our fire department. The water pollution control plant stands alone. They have to raise their own funds. Annually, we look at the sewer user rate, and that is what's going to help us. However, with a project this large, obviously we do have to borrow some money. Plainville was fortunate enough to be able to receive a grant from the Connecticut Clean Water Fund for 50% of the qualified cost. That grant will be approximately $6.2 million to help us pay for this. The rest of the funding will be coming from a 2% interest loan for the balance. It's probably going to be a 20-year loan, and the project will be completed in 27 months, somewhere around October 2020. So we put some shovels in the ground and pretended we were really doing something there today, but the project is up and running, and it's rather important. As I've said to my comments, it's not a project that is particularly flashy or gets a lot of interest from people in the town. It's not like having a new swimming pool or a library, but it's something we all put into that system. So we need to make sure what goes out of that system meets certain standards. So it is on its way. It's a big one, and we had been working on this for several years. So it is. You'll be hearing more about this as time goes on. One of the other items that the town council also dealt with was we had a bond sale on September 5th. The town received 6 bids to purchase $10 million in general obligation bonds for Plainville. This bond sale included $4.9 million for roads, $3 million for schools, and $2.1 million for fire trucks. The low bid was submitted by Morgan Stanley with an interest of 3.0998867%. Before the bid, however, the town staff and financial advisor had a conference call with Standard & Poor's to determine the town's credit rating, and we were very pleased to get the information that Standard & Poor's affirmed Plainville's credit rating of AA+ with a stable outlook. This is one notch below a AAA rating. That is a very good rating for the town of Plainville. We will probably never be a AAA rated town for a lot of reasons. We're not that large. Generally, the larger communities that have a different capacity for funding things can achieve a AAA rating, but for Plainville to receive a AA+ rating, it's just as good. We are right at the top of where we should be. This enables us to borrow money for school projects, for other types of things at a very good rate. So we were pleased to have that happen. So that gives us a very good outlook for the future in terms of how we can plan for our capital expenditures. And we're going to go forward and take care of some of those projects. Our roads, our schools, and certainly our fire department have been priorities for the town council. Now we'll be able to pay for them, and it will not be as expensive as it could have possibly been. Our Robertson Airport, we had to make some changes there recently. We hired a new on-call consultant, most of which the funding for that consultant will be paid for by the FAA. We also have to, we are hiring somebody that is actually going to run the ongoing day-to-day operations at the airport. New England Aviation, owned by Nick Scotta and his partner, Mr. Tomic, will be taking over the operation of the airport. So we were pleased that somebody was able to step in. The current owners, the O'Leary family, have decided to step away from the airport and its day-to-day operation. They have been operating the airport for decades, and Mr. O'Leary has decided it's now time for him to retire and do something else. So we were lucky enough to get somebody locally that's going to take on that task for us, so we're very pleased about that. We also executed a tax fixing agreement and a tax abatement for a company that's going to be expanding their operation in Plainville. The name of the company is Tech2 LLC. They're on Northwest Drive. They are going to increase a building by 33,600 square feet, which would include an office and distribution center at 29 Northwest Drive. The way this works is the tax abatement is for 5 years. The first year would provide 50% abatement for the improvements, and then the abatement would be reduced by 10% per year for the remaining 4 years. What this does is it enables current businesses in our town to expand and increase their footprint or what they're going to try to do. While they are doing that, the town council is allowed to, through our economic development agency, to award these abatements. Ultimately, we will, in 5 years, that business will be paying the full assessed value to the town. So it's a way for us to help people to get going and establish some forward-moving events with these, with our businesses. 2 more things. The Farmington Canal Heritage Trail Gap. There's a little bit more information about that. The State Bond Commission recently approved an appropriation of $3.8 million to design the Farmington Canal Trail through Plainville. The design will be done by the State Department of Transportation, and this could take up to 24 months. Now, just to be clear, this is for design of the trail. This is not to construct the trail. It's to create a final design. Ultimately, when that happens, it will be brought back to the town council. Of course, the town council will invite residents to look at the final design. We will have meetings where people can come in and comment and ask questions. But this is a project, again, that has been on our horizon for a few years now, and we're moving forward to get the final design done. So we're pretty excited about having that happen. And one last thing, we do have some areas in town that have been problematic. However, they are owned by the railroad. I don't know if many of you have driven over some of those railroad crossings, but they can be exciting at the very least. So what we have done is the state DOT has notified the town that Pan Am will be making repairs to 3 railroad crossings in Plainville. These are located on Town Line Road, East Street on Route 10 near Dunkin' Donuts, and West Main Street near the Municipal Center. It's estimated it will take 3 days to make the repairs at each location, which will necessitate road closures and detours. I'm sure that would be frustrating for some folks, but we have to get those railroad crossings in good order because they have become a bit of a problem for a great many people. The plan is to perform 2 of the crossing repairs on the weekends, and currently the plan is to have all of it done before Thanksgiving. That would be before, certainly some of our winter weather comes about, and hopefully we can have those fixed. It does take a long time to work with the railroad. They have their own rules and regulations and their own timetable, and we've been trying to get this done for well over a year. So fortunately, we're going to see that happen. So smoother railroad crossings for all. That's all I have for you. Unless you have some questions for me, I'd be happy to answer. Okay, thanks very much.
Next, we have the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. This evening, the first item under my report is to introduce our new Food Services Director, Mr. Michael Koch. He is going to give you a little bit of his background and then talk about the Child Nutrition Program, which you will be voting on later on this evening. So, Mr. Koch.
Thank you very much for your time. I'm thanking you, allow me to speak to you all. Well, I've been in New Britain for about, good Lord, for about 21 years, working in a much larger district. Basically, we had about $7 million worth of sales in the school food service department. So back in August, I received a phone call from Dr. Brummett saying, would you like to entertain the notion of perhaps interviewing with us? I said, why not? Sure, of course. You know, what could that harm? What would be the harm? Basically, at that point, here I am. It's just been a terrific town. You have a very good little town, and according to the report we just heard, you have a small town. So there are some unique challenges in the food service department, but let me talk about, first off, it's a little bit about my background to give you an idea of who I am. A long time ago, about 100 years ago, I started as a dishwasher at a small family-owned restaurant in Warwick, New York. At that, I began talking to the salesperson that used to visit us on a regular basis. He said, yeah, we have a job opening in New Jersey. So I ended up moving to New Jersey, and for a few months later, I received a job working a sales route in Brooklyn, New York. So hey, you know, bada bing, bada boom, I started working that for a while. I then moved my family and myself. Well, actually, I took my wife's job. She worked in Ellenville, New York. I took her job. She moved on to another account. That's how I began in school food service. So basically, I've been in school food service about 30 years. Then at that point, I did that for about a year. Then I moved to Walk Hill, New York, did that for about a year. Then I moved my family to North Carolina, did that for about 3 years. And then I received a job offer to move to New Britain, and I've been there ever since. I lived there, been a member of the community there for many years. We are next door, right next door to each other. You know, my commute went from 6 minutes to 8 minutes now. Terrible, you know, extra mileage on my car. It's been pretty good. So the reason I met with good folks in Plainville was with Dr. Brummett, Mr. LePage. We began to work with the Plainville Hat and start introducing the summer food service program. So I began to know people in the community, the library and Norton Park and Colin, and basically we've been working with them for over 10 years. So just a little information. My kids then, basically, since I've been with you so long, my kids moved out of the house. We are empty nesters, and we've adopted a nice 5-year-old boy. You can see the slide. He's great, sweetest little guy. I love him. And as a matter of fact, he was in the office over there, but you know, I didn't bring him tonight. I could have, but I thought it was a bad idea. What I wanted to do then is give you some quick ideas of what I think the program goals are. Again, there are some unique challenges. You know, you're a small town. You have 2,500 students, and it's difficult because you have applications, you have free reduced, you have a high paid, what's called paid versus free and reduced population. So some of the things that I'm looking at right now is emphasis on quality, on safety of the food, and the quality of the food. That's important to me. Food should be hot food served hot, cold food served cold. It's a simple equation, but very often it's not followed. And then in order to do that, you know, we talk to the students. I like to sit down, talk to them, do some polling. Serious polling, not just, you know, hey, what's going on, and then they tell you everything stinks. Well, that's not the case. What's constructive about that? Let's talk about what can we do to improve the food. What do you like to see on the menu? What don't you like to see on the menu? You know, because I like it or because the adults like it, it's not necessarily what the kids like. I've already increased some of the healthy choices. We're doing a grab and go, what I call grab and go, which is a salad available in the elementary schools. Just a small salad. It's semi-vegetarian. It only has cheese on it, but it meets all the USDA requirements with take that fruit and the milk, and you can go, and it seems to be going very well. We started out with maybe 1 or 2 a day, and now we're up to certain schools are doing about 20 a day now. Parfaits are another good thing, another good offering. At this point, I'll probably just start at the high school, and perhaps middle school eventually. Again, they meet the requirements for USDA meal, but that's something that the kids may like. I already did we saved some money on the new software that we bought. Sam can back me up on this. Saved some money on the new software that we bought for the POS system, the cash register system that we use, and managed to actually buy a nice 6-foot-long barbecue grill. And the point of the grill, obviously, is to, again, go outside, go to the schools. I did a cookout a couple of weeks ago, last week, lose track of time. You know, that's how you know you're getting old. Basically, we did a cookout at Linden School, and basically cooked hot dogs and burgers on the grill, brought it inside, served the kids. Those are the kinds of things you want to do, and eventually, perhaps I'll even like to do one out here on the senior patio, or the senior patio, whatever that is. So, one of the things I like to do here is perhaps at the high school offer a breakfast, hot breakfast. I think breakfast participation will drive the program also. Right now, we're not doing so well. We have 700 kids in the high school doing about 30 breakfasts a day. I'd certainly like to bring that number up. You know, we want to start the day off with a balanced meal. So that's one of the things that I'm going to do probably within the next few weeks. We should have something started. Obviously, all these things, any changes, any little change we can make to increase participation brings more funds. And those are federal funds, ladies and gentlemen. They come in from the federal government into the community. They get spent here and they stay here. They don't go anywhere. Well, we won't talk about the CAF software. We'll skip over that. But my goal basically is to make money for the district so that the program itself, when I say money, it means that the program becomes a self-sustaining program. That means there's no input from the board in the sense of funds. It's very difficult for us to make money because it's such a small program, as we discussed before. So I have to find ways to increase revenue. One way of doing that, obviously, is to increase the customer perception of the program. If the kids begin to like the program, maybe they'll participate more often. If they participate more often, again, they'll buy more meals. And if they buy more meals, that's just good all around. There's a downstreaming effect to that. Everybody wins with that. The community wins, we all win. One of the other goals that I'd like to do is talk about catering program. We do catering, but it's limited. I'd certainly like to go out and do more catering within the community. Believe it or not, we buy the same food that restaurants buy. I know you probably don't believe me because you're a student. You probably think there's some special food, right? No, it's the same food that restaurants buy. Because of the state education and the federal government, I have to offer a particular type of food. You know, there's a full grain requirement. It has to be whole grain. That's why the rolls you see is brown. The pizza dough is slightly brown because it's a full grain dough. But that doesn't mean I can't buy the regular pizza for a catering program. After hours, weekends, nights, holidays, all those things we can do. And the reason we do that is because, again, it increases customer perception of the program. You know, if you do a great catering job, everybody's happy about it. Wow, these guys can really do the job, they can cook, they know what they're doing. That helps my employees because it brings income to the program. If more income, it helps my employees because they get more hours, they get more pay, it helps their families, and again, they'll spend the money in town. Again, we talked about that. And some of the goals as far as employees, we talked about employees. We worked on developing the ability for them to advance in the organization rather than just to come to work and just, pretty much do the same thing every day. You tend to get bored. I know one of the things that Sam and I worked on was to basically begin the cook at the high school. My surprise was when I came in here, that was not a permanent position. That was a rotating position. To me, that's a little odd because you don't have continuity within the product. You have, 3 people doing the same job, they're cooking different ways, and they all apply their own little spin on the food. It's not going to be consistent, and that's one thing that you want. You want the tacos to taste the same. You want the hamburgers to taste the same. Basically, that's the idea with having a cook that stays at that position on a regular basis. So that's one of the things that we're working on. Again, we talked about more income. It benefits the employee. It increases their wages. Maybe we can offer them better benefits because right now they don't really get any benefits. They just work for an hourly wage at this point. They do get some paid time off, but that's pretty much it, which is good. It's fair. Again, better community perception of the program, better food. That's one thing I'm going to work on. And I call it the Sam Adlerstein upward spiral. And it makes sense. It's a terrific term. The more money you make, the more opportunity. And the more opportunity, everybody benefits. It's not just us, but everybody. The whole school district benefits. And I think that's pretty much it. So, thank you again. Thank you for your time. If I have any questions, my office is right over there. Feel free, stop by, say hi. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koch. As you can see, he's bringing quite a bit of energy to our food service program, and again, we've known him for a number of years because he has served on the Hunger Action Team, better known as HAT, which has helped with our movement toward summer meals, which we've been doing for quite a number of years, very successfully. So we're glad to have Mike on board as a Plainville School District employee. The next item on my agenda is something I'm going to be talking about, our enrollment. So on the next slide, there it is. On October 1st, we're required to submit a snapshot of our enrollment to the state. This does drive some of our reimbursements, such as our choice grants, and serves as our official enrollment for the entire school year for state data purposes. It also allows us to compare year-to-date enrollment from last year to present. And as the board will note, as you look at that chart, we're pretty similar from where we were last year. It's important to note that in our budget projections that Sam Alderstein revised this year, he projected 2,399 students. So our actual number is 2,354, which is 45 less, but it's much closer to the enrollment that was done prior to that in 2012, where they predicted we would only have 2,202 students this year, or 152 less. So we're pretty accurate in our projections. The biggest dip in our enrollment is at the middle school level, but what we have found that it's not unusual that at the start of sixth grade, some kids do and their families opt for magnet schools. But over time, we find they do turn around and come back. But overall, the enrollment at the other schools is pretty similar to where it was this time last year. For enrollment purposes, Wheeler students are all counted under Wheeler numbers, even though all of our Wheeler preschool students are at Linden this year because of the renovation. But other than that, we are pretty much the same, and you'll notice that. Now, later on in the fall, we will do a more updated enrollment projection. Mr. LePage will do that. It'll also include class size reports, comparisons along that line, and that's what the board would use for staffing purposes as we look toward the budget process for next year and our staffing needs. I would like to draw your attention to the chart. I intentionally put the magnet school enrollments on there and the cost of that. I think it's important for the board to see that. Again, last year we had 44 at this time, this year 46, so a very similar number of children heading out to magnet schools, but that tuition from last year is at risk of going up substantially next year. For years, CREC has been concerned about the lack of funding they get from the state. And we've been in numerous meetings with them over the years and some task forces. If the state does not step up and fully fund CREC magnet schools, we could see as much as a 20 to 25% increase in those tuitions next year. We have really no choice but to pay that. It's required by state statute. We could say, well, we're not paying it, and then they'll say, well, then we're going to keep your ECS money proportionately. So we really can't not pay those bills. But I am worried, and I'm keeping myself fully involved in those discussions, that because the magnet schools, the CREC magnet schools, feel they've been underfunded for a number of years, that tuition is at risk of a substantial increase next year. So Sam and I will keep ourselves fully informed. In fact, Sam will be attending a meeting this Friday in which this process will be discussed. And then just for the board's information, within that total is including any children who are outplaced, which again, that number is very similar as last year at this time. And also included in the total is all of our children from the Open Choice program, which this year is 116. So that's really the summary of our enrollment at this time. Again, you'll get a much more detailed report in the coming months as we prepare for budgeting, looking at our class sizes, which helps drive which positions we either add or remove depending on the needs. The next part of my report is a quick update on the thought exchange process. Hopefully by now, all of our board members, all of our students in grades 6 to 12, teachers, parents have all received the Thought Exchange email link, and that will allow you to respond to the question of what are Plainville schools doing well and what should we focus on in order to improve. I went on the dashboard today, and we have about 1,200 or so thoughts shared so far. We will be leaving the process open until October 17th, and I did send out a reminder email today to all the students, or their principals will be doing that on my behalf. Staff, students, and parents would have gotten a reminder email today, and tomorrow I'll send a reminder email out to town officials, Board of Ed members, just to encourage them to participate. And it's important to note, too, that as you can tell by those links, we are able to have folks participate in English, Spanish, or Polish, and that I hope will increase the number of folks that participate. So the goal is that once the Thought Exchange closes on October 17th, we will work with the Thought Exchange folks, and they will give us themes that are emerging and some of the things that kind of are common among all our stakeholders. And from there, I will update the board so that we'll drive our update of our strategic plan. So I expect that I'll be giving the board a preliminary report at our November board meeting. But I'm enthused to see that we have quite a number of participants thus far, quite a number of thoughts shared, and I'm hoping over the next week that continues to grow. And I'll do one more reminder next Monday before we close it down on the 17th. So any questions on either Thought Exchange or enrollment? I didn't ask you about the enrollment questions.
So, Maureen, Thought Exchange. Doing it, Kevin? All right. Thought Exchange is the purpose, obviously, people put down their thoughts, and then is there a starring process as well? I don't know if people recognize what that's about, maybe?
It's simultaneous this year, too. Once you submit a thought or multiple thoughts, then the process immediately shares other thoughts with you, and you can star them based on whether you agree with them or not. So it's happening all simultaneously. It used to happen in stages, but right now you share a thought or two or three, and then you can immediately star other thoughts that folks have submitted that may or may not resonate with you. So that's the process.
And so the reason I say that is I've done Thought Exchange a few times when I really have not been able to come up with a good idea myself, but I put a thought in there just because I want to participate, and then I look and I see a lot of other people's ideas that are really awesome, much better thinkers than me, and so I will star their thoughts because that's still, that gets that point across that that's the most popular thought. So just, I think the big thing with this is that people look at it and maybe they're just like, well, what am I going to say? I don't know what I want to say. But once you participate, you can really look at what other people have said and really go in and make a bigger impact by, everybody. You'll definitely find that there'll be a trend where people will push towards one thing or another, a few things. I shouldn't say just one thing. But it's definitely a great process, so I hope people will participate in that process.
Thank you. When you sign in, the first thing you do is choose which group you belong to. Excuse me. So if you were to sign in as a board member, you'd check off community member. Some of you might choose parent or community member. You have two choices. But then you go in and you can share a thought. But the good news is if you don't really have a thought to share at that point in time, you can still participate in the starring process. So you really can participate in one of two ways or both ways. And it gives you that flexibility. So I appreciate Becky's comments and questions because I think it is a valuable source of information, and it drove part of our development of our strategic plan back in 2016, and I anticipate this will help us refine it and update it 2.5 years into the process. So I hope that we get a lot of participation. If you are not a community member who we've emailed directly or someone that's in the district, you can go to our website, click on the front page. It'll say there's a Thought Exchange button right at the very top of the front page, and you can participate that way. So there's multiple ways to participate if you are not part of the district or didn't get an invitation as a community member. So hopefully all those avenues will get folks involved. Okay. Any other questions on enrollment or Thought Exchange? Okay, and then the next update I have is indoor track. As we heard from some of our articulate students this evening, it does appear that there still is quite a bit of interest in indoor track, and we certainly heard about that during budget season, but a development has come up. A few weeks ago, Mr. Medic and Mr. Farrell advised me that there are several clubs that we had budgeted for that we're not going to run this year because we just didn't have enough student interest. So based on their insight and then they're looking at the budget and the cost of those clubs that aren't going to run, we would have enough funds in our current budget to afford indoor track without any extra allocations or anything like that, simply using existing funds from clubs that are not going to run anyway to reallocate to indoor track. I do think that the students made a good point tonight that it's an invaluable sport to have in between fall and spring sports. It keeps the kids moving, especially in the wintertime when people tend to be indoors. I have asked Mr. Farrell tonight to speak to us, although it looks like there he is, if anyone has any particular questions about what we anticipate as number of interested students, because Mr. Farrell has certainly gotten a lot of student inquiries in recent weeks. If you have anything to add, Mr. Farrell?
No, I think you said it perfect. Our cross-country numbers are definitely up this year. We're over 40. We have a really large amount of freshmen, girls and boys. They've actually been very active. We had the most runners we've had in the past couple of years run the JV race and the Invitational at Wickham Park last Saturday. They're doing a great job. Coach Berard and the cross-country team couldn't be more happier with the dedication, how many students are really coming. I know that we did talk about indoor track last year. I did have a lot more interest. A lot more students wanted to go to Bristol Eastern, and like we had talked about last year, we can only send 3. So, it was coming down to, basically crunch time, what I had to do. We tried to see if we could kind of work some things around. It was just, hard. So, we do see us having over 40 students for indoor track because a lot of our cross country, just talking to the students informally, they don't do anything in the winter, as, some of the student athletes spoke tonight. So if there are any questions, please feel free.
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
So the indoor track will be paid for by funds that have become available through whatever has not taken place again this following year.
Yep.
And that will be the end of what we have to pay for this.
Correct. So when we went and sat down, every year we sit down and go through clubs and activities, and they have to, the teachers sign stipends, and that's where some things were not being, there wasn't enough interest. So yeah, there would be no extra money. There was nothing. We were able to, be able to pay the stipends for coaches, go to 3 invitationals to 4 invitationals. They'll practice here on site. There's no extra cost for equipment because we have it all, uniforms, that is all here. Transportation stuff, we'll be able to work some things around, kind of cut some away scrimmages. There's things that we'll be able to do for, some of the spring and winter stuff to kind of make sure that everyone is able to do that at no additional cost.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And just to be clear, the clubs that aren't running are due to lack of student interest, not because we cut one club to benefit indoor track. It was definitely driven by student interest. So later on tonight, under new business, I'm hoping the board will approve the inclusion of indoor track for this school year. And I believe I have any questions for Mr. Farrell?
I have one more. What would the upkeep cost be on that indoor track?
Upkeep as far as?
Maybe the first question is there upkeep?
There is, as far as like on a daily basis?
Yeah, daily, weekly?
No, there's nothing extra. As long as it doesn't drop below 25 degrees is kind of the rule that we talk about with ADs and the CCC. We communicate. They'll be outside on the track every single day. They have to dress warm. They'll be outside. We'll use our weight room facility. It's already there. So nothing really will change as far as just, having the coaches there to.
I'm talking about repairs or any kind of maintenance on that.
No, there's really nothing. When it comes to running, it's more of their bodies. It's making sure that they're ready to go when our athletic trainers in there and they're able to, get into the training room when they can and make sure they're stretching properly. I think the student athletes said it perfect. It's more of having that continuation from the fall into the spring. And it's also getting a lot more student athletes out during the winter season when our numbers do drop to, make sure they are competitive. And I know I said it last year as well. There's 32 teams in the CCC. We are the only team that does not have indoor track. So we're getting in line with the other teams in the Central Connecticut Conference. But as far as upkeep and maintenance, it's literally their bodies and they're running. We have batons. We have all of that. When we say equipment, it's more uniform, batons, and we'll be using our mats and, jumping, that kind of thing. But that is nothing. I mean, those mats were purchased years ago, but everything's in great shape.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell, and again, thank you to our students who obviously said it best about what it will do for them and their fitness over the winter. All right, last but not least in my report, I would like to invite Ms. Rosa Perez to the podium, Director of Curriculum and Instruction. She is here to provide a preliminary report on the results of our students' performance on the 2018 Smarter Balanced Assessment. I'm very pleased to report that the results are quite positive. The state has also indicated there's going to be a delay in getting the district report cards to us. That's a summative report that measures a lot of things about what our students do, including physical fitness, our arts programs, attendance. That is not ready yet. But I did want Ms. Perez to bring forward some preliminary results to share to the board because I think it's important for them to see how our students are performing. But more information is forthcoming. And then Ms. Perez will also speak about some of the enhancements that she and Ms. Graham-Douglas have made to our website relative to curriculum. So, Ms. Perez, it's all yours.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Brummett, my fellow administrators, and all present here tonight. So I'm here to offer some newsflash from the Curriculum Office. We continue to use our vision document to guide our work. During the June Curriculum Academy, we were able to continue curricular improvements in the area of English, grade 12, and GSS, grades K through 11, social studies, grades 9 through 12, library media, K5, physical education, grades 9 through 12, art, grades 6 through 8, special education, 9 through 12, world language, 9 through 12, and math, grade 12. So the Curriculum Academy was very successful. We were all, again, together in the PHS Learning Commons, and we had a great time. If people say, how do you have good time writing curriculum? Come and see it. In the area of teaching, Mr. LePage has revised the evaluation instrument to continue the efforts of offering more flexibility and opportunity for innovation for our teachers. In the area of learning, we are constantly aligning to the Connecticut Core and GSS, improving learning targets, and to utilize assessment data to determine student learning needs. And here it is. Assessment Performance Report. This year, it is time to celebrate our achievements as measured by the Smarter Balanced Assessment. Some of you have already seen these results during convocation. These results represent students who achieved a level 3 or higher on the Smarter Balanced Assessment. As you can see, we compare student results over the last 2 years. We can see that grade level results are on the rise. These results are by grade level, not by cohort. That comes up next. For grade 11, we do not have cohort data because students take the SAT in grade 11, and that's the only time. But progression towards SAT achievement, it's measured as students take PSAT. High school teachers analyze PSAT results for the purpose of creating individual student plans that will further prepare students for SAT. Tomorrow is our PSAT day, and happy to report that for the first time ever in Plainville, our 8th graders will also participate in the PSAT, and they're nervous. I am too. Well, some of us are. We will use the 8th grade results to guide curricular changes and to begin crafting individual student plans for their entrance to high school. PSAT and SAT data will be further communicated during the high school Board of Ed presentation. Now you can see the assessment results by cohort. Notice that there's 2 tables, English Language Arts and Math. Our current 4th graders, for example, so when they were 3rd graders, they achieved a a score of 3 or better, 52% of them, and now as grade 4 students, 65% have achieved a score of 3 or better. So you can see down the line how much all the arrows going up are increases, and then some have stayed just about the same. The increase of assessment results can be attributed to the usage of interim assessments. These assessments are published by the state to help districts prepare students with the kinds of questions, readings, and exercises the student will encounter in the actual test. In addition, these assessments help students learn to navigate the testing screen and use a variety of tools available during the assessment. Teachers use the interim assessment results as teaching tools. Teachers also use the information for the purpose of additional class discussion, practice, and for building test-taking stamina. These efforts have provided awareness about the test for the purpose of better preparing students for the Smarter Balanced Assessment. We all know that measuring student progress goes beyond one assessment and one moment in time. Therefore, we also look at other data, classroom performance assessments, discipline, specific assessments, attendance, participation in arts, physical education, advanced placement, early college experience courses, and participation in after-school activities. All this information helps us look at the total child, not just a score in just one assessment. The next table is going to be a little difficult to understand, but I'm going to try my best to explain this information. The state has given districts many ways to assess how we are doing as a district. And the results by average percentage of target achieved is another way. We have assessment results, whether the students have achieved a 1, 2, 3, or 4, 3 or better, but we also have the results of the average percentage of target achieved. The definition is the average growth achieved is not a percentage of students. It is a percentage of the target. All students achieve a percentage of their target. Some achieve 100%, others 60%, and some 0%. When you average those percentages, you get the average percentage achieved. So it's the average of all the percentages that were assigned that becomes the target achieved. But I'm going to give you an example. Okay, there are 4 levels of achievement. Exceeded is level 4, met is level 3, approaching is level 2, and not met level 1. Each level has a range of points that when achieved, the student is able to move to a different level or improve within the level. For example, a student takes a test. That student achieves a 70%. With the help and support of the teacher or the state, they set a goal, for example, of additional 5 points on the next time the student takes the test. So now you had a 70, but next year the state is going to say, you should improve that 70 to a 75, so you have 5 more points to get there. If the student achieves the 5 points, that means that the student achieved his target, and this represents 100% of that target. But if the student achieves 3 points, then the student achieved only 40% of that target. But if the student achieves 7 points, then the student exceeded the target and achieved perhaps 110%, because he or she went above and beyond the established target. Do you have a headache already? The goal is that students achieve their target score, or at least make progress achieving that target goal. As all students achieve or not their target, the average of all those targets out there become the average of target achieved. So now we have two different ways that we get points as a district in our report card. So, as you can see, our students increased towards achieving their target goal when compared to last year. You can see all the arrows are going up. In the near future, the state will share our district accountability report. That is the name of our report card. I would like to come back to present and offer information once we receive that report. I believe that once we have the opportunity to review the accountability, we will better understand the mind behind the math. So these are the results that I have so far for you, but all I can say is that we are on great track of improvement in district this year compared to last year. And hopefully, the road continues to go up. Any questions? If you would like to come and visit and sit in my office, Tawana and I will gladly show you a plethora of data that we did at the beginning of the year, and we were data mining, and we have tons of reports by school, by student, so we can sit down and just have a data party, if you would like.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to just everyday students getting their tests, taking their tests, and that was their test score, and then that's all added up to give you the percentage that you need as opposed to all of this? I guess I'm a little bit confused with.
Well, this is in state assessments. Okay. Students still have a report card that belongs to them during the school year, but this is in terms of state assessment. But they're still taking tests, they're still taking quizzes, we're still recording their progress in many different areas and many different subjects on a daily basis.
Okay. I think I need to come and see you.
So this is just state assessments. I mean, we do have everyday assessments, so that's why that this assessment is nice. It compares us not only within our district, it creates plans for the kids, but again, it's a moment in time. So therefore, we need to have more data to really complete the whole picture of who each child is in their educational journey. So.
Yes, getting away from a little SBAC for a minute, but on the PSAT at the 8th grade, is it the plan to have this ongoing from year to year, or is this year just an experiment to try that?
I am hoping that is year to year.
Good.
Because that data that we collect is actually to help us make the curricular adjustments that we deem necessary to continue preparing the kids for the real SAT in grade 11.
It's also interesting to see the growth, especially in math over the ELA. Although I don't want to diminish English language arts, but I think the area and strength in mathematics is really great to see. I think it was a good report. Thank you.
Yeah. It's just a little bit, it's hard to understand at first, but the more you look at it and play with the numbers and look at the numbers, it makes more and more sense.
Yeah.
So from a perspective of the 8th grade with that, taking the PSAT, the plan with this, just to clarify this for me, is the plan really using this information more cohort information, or does it break down individually to the student? And
I am going to say cohort as a group, so we can determine what they need moving forward through the rest of 8th grade and beyond to the high school years. So it's really, the students take the test, but really is for us to learn from the results.
But students can also, we will look at individual student results. We use, all of these results will get loaded into our performance tracker student database. So if there is a child that's struggling or doesn't do very well, we would have an opportunity then to give them some interventions in 9th grade and so on until, so they're better prepared for the SAT. I mean, the SAT is aligned to the Common Core now, so it is believed to be a good measure of student achievement. It's something that's going to help them get into college. So we will use those results. In fact, it is linked to the Khan Academy. So children can go online to Khan Academy. They'll say, gee, here's what I scored on this area. I can go on Khan Academy and get some extra help, not to mention their teachers, of course, providing help. And there's, at the high school, they have opportunity to take an SAT class now as well. So we just give the kids more information and their parents about how they're doing.
so, and the reason I ask that, is because from a student stress, perspective, because we all know students have a lot of stress, I've just, I think that the information is obviously very valuable. It's good information for us. I just don't want to move that stress level down another notch without there being a good beneficial, reason for doing it. But I also, I think that I hope that they understand, because, you think about when the kids would take standardized tests, and this is now, I'm going back like 100 years, like our other food service director said, to when my kids took standardized tests, the kids were not nervous about taking those tests, right? Bring it forward to when they're taking their SATs and their PSATs, and it's really on them, and it's a whole different focus and a whole different level of stress for the kid. So I'm thinking, and you guys know better than I, can correct me if I'm wrong, that the way this PSAT probably feels to an 8th grader is more like the standardized tests where there isn't that kind of stress on them individually. Would we agree with that? Is that?
I mean, on the test itself, there is a disclaimer that it tells the students they don't need to study. It's just going to measure what they already know. They don't want the kids to go into the SAT site. They don't want the kids to start preparing and looking at types of questions. They just want to measure what they already know. I believe is some healthy nervousness, and pretty much once it happens once and the kids spread the word, oh, that wasn't too bad, then it's all over. But it's brand new, so we just want everything to go smoothly and then use the information to help the students individually and collectively for curricular adjustments as well.
And Mr. Guarino and I have fielded a few parent concerns about stress. 3.
Yeah.
So that's not too bad out of 100 and some odd students that would. So, but, we honor that. We understand that parents are just trying to protect their child from unnecessary stress. That's not how it's being rolled out. We hope that the students are feeling it that way. Obviously, we'll assess that and get feedback if children have had visits to the school counselor's office or what have you. But that we haven't had a lot of concerned parents, but there's been a few. I don't know if you have anything to add, Mr. Guarino. Sure.
And, I think, too, maybe it's just because this is what the PSAT and the SAT was before. Do you know what I'm saying? It has that reputation of being the individualized,
Correct.
more,
Yeah.
something that the student would be more attached to.
I think that the students, I can't speak for all students. There are certainly students that no matter any time you put any piece of paper in front of them that says a test on it, they are going to get anxious. That it doesn't matter whether it's a PSAT or a math test or an art test or whatever. And, we try to support those kids, and, there's plenty of breaks built into this as well. but it is certainly being rolled out as non-stress inducing as possible, and that this is really about us getting feedback for the way we are educating you all as a whole, as students. And so I'll know more after tomorrow, but then get some feedback from the kids and from the teachers.
Thank you.
And pretty much grade 8, 9, 10, and 11 are all testing PSAT tomorrow. So, and nationwide as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And what's up with that grade 8 math cohort there? That was crazy.
Yeah. We're analyzing that, and there's some really good teaching practices that went into that. And just as an aside, for those, we look at, for purposes of board reporting, the cohort analysis and the aggregate analysis, but we dive deep into classroom level analysis. So we ask teachers to share their positive practices, as Mr. Weiner has probably done at the middle school, and what was working well in 8th grade, share that out for all grades and see how that rolls. So we do look at it as how we can analyze our own teaching practices, and that's where the PLC days are extremely helpful.
Are we tracking how we have improved from the time we started, really the professional learning communities, and how that has impacted the improvement? It looks apparent now, right now, it's kind of clear that the growth has really taken place since we have really gotten and started to expand PLC days.
I think it's been very helpful. When we first started PLCs, the high-stakes testing was sort of at a not happening, data drought time. Now, these past 3 years, there's been the SBAC back in play, so I think it's going to take us some time to analyze it, but I think initially, looking at the data that we've had from the year to year, we do see an upward trajectory, but rest assured, we're not going to rest on our laurels. There's room to grow. We want all kids at 100% or as close to it as do the best they can do. So we keep working and analyzing and working with our teachers because they often have some of the best ideas to make our students, help our students grow.
And I have to give a shout out to the State Department of Education as well, because they have given us excellent tools that help us analyze the results in so many different levels. The interim assessments that they have also provided for us are improved every single year. They're truly giving us excellent tools to analyze the data, and they're giving us plenty of professional development to also not only get the data, but also understand the data and how to use it for improvement. So I have to say,
that's great to hear too.
it's absolutely amazing what they're doing. Moving to our next part, we are talking about learning targets. Okay. This is our district curricular work. We're talking learning targets. The administration team is concentrating on observing how learning targets are crafted and used during lesson delivery district-wide. In order to bring the crafting and usage of learning targets to the next level, we will be offering professional development throughout the year so that learning targets become stronger, measurable, and attainable. And I'm sure these students can see that there's I can statements posted in the classroom on a daily basis. Students will continue to explore learning targets in the form of I can statements. These statements concentrate on what students are going to learn instead of what teachers are going to teach. So there is a shift there. We know what the teachers are going to teach, but we want them to tell us what the students are going to learn. Therefore, teachers are transferring the learning to the students so that they can take charge of their own learning, and that is the purpose. This past summer, I had the opportunity to begin crafting our curriculum page. This project could have not been possible without the help and support of John Dara from the Technology Department and my colleague, Tuana Graham-Douglas. Ultimately, the credit goes to all the dedicated teachers who tirelessly update and adjust curriculum on a daily basis to meet and help the needs of our students. We're going to give you a glance of our curriculum page. And here it is. On the first page, there is information and contact information about myself and Tuana, but also underneath the book, there is just like a little note to tell people about our curriculum development, but also it's like a disclaimer to tell people that curriculum work is never ending. We're constantly revising curriculum. We're constantly looking for innovation in curriculum because we need to meet the needs of our students. All the curriculum documents are created in Google Documents, so when the teachers do any upgrades, the upgrades are live, and the curriculum documents are open to the world right now. So if you go into our curriculum page, as you can see in the tab, on the left-hand side, they're divided by grade level at the elementary and by subject area from the middle school and high school and some elementary. Just remember, this is a work in progress. We continue upgrading curriculum documents, and things are changing, so this will be the best place to find all that information. I am hoping that students visit the page so they know what they are studying right now and what they're going to study as well. And if parents also access the materials and they have something that they can share in the classroom, they can contact teachers and offer their expertise about a subject or about a topic that is being studied in the classroom. But this was, I guess, a dream of mine that all curriculum documents should be shared with everybody because we should all know what happens in the classroom and what our students are studying and learning. Okay, so this concludes my presentation, and I thank you for the opportunity, and I hope to be back soon with the accountability report. So, any questions?
Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rosa.
A pleasure.
Thank you very much, Rosa. She's taken some very complicated concepts relative to the SBAC test and helped us boil it down. But fear not, if tonight wasn't crystal clear, you will have other opportunities to hear more about that with some future reports. And I would like to also say that getting the curriculum visible to our community and our families is part of our strategic plan. It was something we heard that folks wanted to see what our curriculum was like. Certainly when parents consider moving into Plainville, they may want to go on that site and see what our curriculum looks like, and it's now very readily available. So hats off to our curriculum department, Ms. Perez, Ms. Graham-Douglas. It's been a long-term goal, and we've realized it, and it continues to get refined over time. So thank you very much. And I believe that does conclude my report for this evening. Thank you.
So that brings us to our board subcommittee reports. Our student representatives, Allie and Madeline.
Tomorrow, we have the PSATs, which will be taken by students grades 9 through 11. We will follow a half-day schedule where the students will take the PSATs up until 12:10, and then we'll have lunch, and then we will have our 2 regularly scheduled classes that we usually drop today.
Okay, and while the underclassmen take the PSAT, there will be opportunity for seniors to see colleges or do job shadows, and they will also be required to fill out resumes and create post-secondary plans. I'll personally be doing a job shadow with a business manager with one of my friends, and all seniors involved in extracurriculars and sports will be back in time to participate in practices and games tomorrow.
And next Friday, we have our homecoming game against Northwest Catholic, and we also have the parade right beforehand. All grades will have their homecoming floats, and people will vote on that. And then we have the dance on the 20th. But to start off that week, we have a pep rally on Monday. It's the first time we've had this in a very long time. It's supposed to set a positive and fun tone for the homecoming week.
And also going on that homecoming week, there will be a NEAS conference held at Plainville High. Visitors will be in the school, and this will be a great week to show off some of our school pride to the visitors. We will be having an early dismissal on Wednesday the 24th for parent-teacher conferences, and on Tuesday, October 30th, the senior class will be doing their ordering and sizing for caps and gowns. So graduation is upon us, and it's starting to feel a little bit more real at this point.
For sports, cross-country team has their CCC meet at Wickham on the 16th, and then they have states on the 20th, and currently the girls and guys teams are both 3-3. Our football team has 2 wins and 3 losses. Boys soccer has 5 wins and 4 losses. Our girls soccer team has 4 wins, 3 losses, and 2 ties. And then our girls swim team has 4 wins and 3 losses. Thank you.
Any questions? You certainly have a busy schedule, girls. Good luck. Next, going to our facilities subcommittee report, Mrs. Terrell.
There was no meeting of the facilities subcommittee.
Policy subcommittee report, nothing.
Policy met on September 18th, and we have several new policies that we will be looking at later. Second reading? Are we on second?
All set? Okay, and next we will go to the finance subcommittee report.
Nothing to report.
Okay, we have advocacy update here with nobody, new name? Advocacy?
There's nothing. Yeah, I don't have
Okay.
anything at the moment.
Next, it's the turf committee report, Dr. Brummett.
The turf committee has not met.
Okay, and next we have the liaison reports, Plainville High School, Mr. Foster.
Yes. The PAC met on September 12th. They elected their new officers. Karen Tomczak is president, Wendy Rund is vice president, Karen Lyman is secretary, Julie Devine is treasurer, and social media is Christine Wells. The treasury had a balance on the 12th of September of $1,379.44. Next meeting is on September 12th, and now is time for the commercial. One of their fundraising events is the ever-popular lemon pie and orange spunkmeyer cookies, which I know that some people like, and I just happen to have the order form with me tonight. And the order started on October 2nd, but the returns must be back in by the 16th. So if anybody on the board or in the audience would like to place an order for a delicious Thanksgiving pumpkin pie or other good things like that, or some Oral Spunkmeyer cookies, I just love the name Oral Spunkmeyer. The other thing, just because the actually Project Rad also was having a kind of a fundraising as a casino bus trip. I just have the poster for it. That's going to be on October 28th. So those are the big things from the PAC from high school. And as I said, the next meeting is in November.
Thank you. And next is the Teflon report, Lori.
The Teflon faculty is working on their school improvement goals for the year. One will be centered on strategies to raise the rigor in reading instruction to meet the new higher standards. A second goal will be to continue the work started last year that addresses improving number sense and leading students to achieve the higher math standards. Veterans Day will also be celebrated on November 12th with a program for veterans and friends of Teflon, and it will include a flag ceremony and an indoor program that honors veterans. Also, the PTO is planning on an Oktoberfest on October 12th. German food and root beer will be served along with fun family events, games, crafts, and music. Lastly, Taflon tentatively set the Taflon 50th birthday party for April 26th, so we're 50 years old. The entire community will be invited, and just listen more for details. They'll be following soon. And that's all for Taflon for today.
And next is the Linden, which is May. The Fall Fun Fest will be October 26th. Trick-or-treat stations, mix of candy, toys, trinkets will be available. Raffle baskets with themes. Anyone can buy a ticket. You do not have to be present to win. Principal notes, CCSU/Linden Reading Night, dinner, activities, reading, making fun, reading games. Need donations for foods, and the theme will be the campfire. And that's all I have, and their next meeting is tomorrow night. Now we go on to the middle school of Plainville.
The MSP PTC met on Tuesday, September 11th. This year, we're going to send out our donation letter like we have done in the past. Instead of like a big fundraiser, we'll continue to collect box tops. And on Thursday, September 27th, we had a successful and fun family bingo night with Mr. Guarino calling all the numbers, and it was a lot of fun. Currently, we're selling Halloween ducks, just little rubber ducks for $1. We'll see how it'll be fun for the kids. So there we go. They're really cute.
Yes, we do.
But we might need Foster to sell them for us. Our next meeting is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
And next is the PTO liaison for the Wheeler Elementary School, Ms. Palmieri.
Their last meeting was canceled. It was on the same night as the safety forum, so I believe they're meeting next week.
And next we have the CREC Council report, Mrs. Terrell.
I did not attend the September CREC Council meeting.
Okay, and next is the chairman's report, which I do have. There was a safety forum which was held on September 26th. State Representative Dr. Pettit was there. Dr. Brummett did the opening remarks, safety-related infrastructure enhancement district-wide. We also had Chief Catania, who touched on the role of the Plainville Police Department partnering with the Plainville schools. Also, our new RSO, Jessica Martins, very informative. She is the new school resource officer. Had a lot of good things to say about what's forthcoming. And next we had Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Mr. LePage, who was also very informative about anti-bullying efforts. We had Karen, I'm not going to pronounce this name the right way.
Toriano.
Okay. And she was talking about the social emotion of well-being. And we also had Kevin Ross, District Director of the Technology. He was offering new information about online and internet safety. All very informative, very, very informative, again, I can say, because they said so much that just pertained to what we should be doing, how we should be doing it. So we just wish that we had some more people that had arrived, but we were good with who we had, so it was very nice. And that's all I have. So
I think I just want to add that the video from that night is being edited, and I'll be putting it on the website shortly.
A lot of good information did come out of that. And next we go to new business, board open forum. Does anybody have anything to report?
I would just like to make one comment. Unfortunately, they had to leave, but I would really like to thank both Nina and Emily and Allie for their comments on indoor track. It's really difficult, especially for the first two speakers who were really nervous outside, having to come in to speak before the board, and for them to come up and speak in support of something that is extremely important to them, and do it, I think, capably well. And interesting note, they did not use notes, neither did Allie, which I think is really cool to do. And really, really, they're speaking from the heart. And so that I think I'm really happy we're going to have the opportunity to get this into effect tonight.
Anybody else?
I would just like to make a comment about indoor track. I heard a lot of comments about the three-sport athlete, and that's really important to provide that opportunity for the three-sport athlete, but I think indoor track is really important for the student athlete who just wants to find something to participate in. I know high school students, it's really important to feel like they're a part of something. And you can't just show up in ninth grade, or it's really the special person who can show up in ninth grade and play basketball and actually play. But running, most people can do. And it's the type of sport that includes, whether you're first or last, everybody's cheering for you. And if you do your best time, it's all good. So I think it's important to have that opportunity for those student athletes.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would echo the support for indoor track, and especially for the students who did come out and speak. As Foster said, you know, I think it's hard to come out here as students and talk to us. We probably look scary. So that was really nice that they did come out and do that, and you know, I think it definitely does speak from their heart, and I think that it's something that's really important for kids. Kathy's point well taken too. I just wanted to mention that it was a little disappointing at the safety forum with the attendance that we had. It's unfortunate. I know it was well advertised too. I'm really glad to hear that it will be online, because there was a lot of information about what the school district does do proactively, and things that, you know, tips and things like that parents can pick up, and what, you know, what they should do in the case of where they feel as if they need some kind of help. It kind of gave them some good direction as to where to go, and how to appropriately move through channels and do things in the best way that's going to help their students. So I do believe it was a good presentation, and a lot of work went into it, and I'm hoping people will take advantage of it once it comes up online.
If I may add one thing, there is also going to be an internet security forum put on by the Coalition Positive Youth Development. That's going to be at the middle school of Plainville on November 15th. And this will just focus on one of the areas that, again, I believe Kevin Ross is going to be in on that, and I think Detective Positis from the police department will be there. And I think it is extremely important for parents to be aware of the dangers their kids can get into rather quickly with just virtual private networks. And so this, I think, it's really incumbent upon all of us to really promote this particular event.
Yep. And then just to mention that we do have the CABE convention coming up in November 13th, 14th, something like that. It's after election season.
It's the 16th.
16th. I know most of us are actually registered to go, and the day before will be the delegate assembly, which I usually attend on behalf of the board. So we will, just wanted to mention that, because by the time we meet again, it'll be right on our doorstep.
Yep.
So thank you.
Any other? No? No? Okay, next we'll go on to need a motion for the, whoops, wait a minute, request approval of the business purchasing. Steve LePage. Oh, did I miss? Oh, I missed. Okay, wait a minute. I lost my place here, I apologize. So special education costs by Mr. Alstein, I'm sorry.
So just quickly, you asked me to report on this quarterly. It's in your packet each month on your consent agenda, but because it's such a big volatile, tuition is so big and volatile to our budget, you asked me to report on it quarterly. Ms. Brzezinski, our People Service Director, is here, so if you have any questions, she can answer them. This time of year, it's still early in the year, and Ms. Brzezinski and her department are going through and doing their best estimates of the tuition for each student that we know of. And as of the end of September, that amounted to $1,379,000 compared to a budget of $1,605,000. So we're still within that budget, which is great. The challenge is that's the end of September, and they're still in the process of evaluating. There's still more kids they haven't evaluated. It's always a moving target, especially at this time of year.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question, and maybe this is going to be a Vicky question? I wonder if we have any kids that or any programs that we think that we could create to bring more kids back, or if we think that group that we've got out is appropriate, most appropriately placed. I know you're usually very proactive with that kind of thing, but.
So Leanne Gamindel, our supervisor for special education, and myself, we really do look at that on a monthly basis and try to look at trends. The problem is in a small town like Plainville, sometimes the needs are very, very individualized, and it's difficult to create a program for one student. At the same time, some of the programs that are created outside and out placements can be upwards of $100,000 per child. And so we try to find that balance of what's going to meet their needs versus what services and supports do we have in the district. And so the outlier this year is that we have had, I think, 4 or 5 new students move into the district who are either currently outplaced or are in need of a very specialized placement. And so that will be sort of where we're analyzing right now. That's kind of what Sam alluded to, is as we can get our heads wrapped around what the needs are and then try to see if we can match it to something we have in district. That is our goal. But the kids that we have out are very unique, and they don't seem to sort of, not even by grade or level or anything, something that we could create in district already right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is the request approval of the policy. Mr. LePage.
Yeah, I'd be happy to give we had our policy subcommittee meeting with several of the Board of Education members as well as other members from the town represented there, and it was quite a lengthy agenda. There are four policies that I put forward, and we're initially moved forward to the board for a first reading for tonight, and there'll be a second reading next month for the final approval. I'll be happy to talk about any of them in any detail that you like. If you'd like, I could give as quick an overview as possible of each. The first one, policy 3320 and related regulation 3320, is regarding purchasing procedures. And this was in collaboration with the upward spiraling Sam Adlerstein. I like that term. Who has many great ideas that do spiral upwards. So this is really just to better align our purchasing process with the times and also with the town procedures for purchasing. There were some limits and some procedures that really didn't fit the speed of doing business in the modern era, so it hadn't been updated since 2005. And in looking at and in collaborating with the representatives from the town and who do purchasing, we want to be more aligned and better aligned, and that's what the efforts within this policy, or the revisions within this policy. So, any questions on that one before I move on?
Do you want to do like a motion right now?
That's in the consent agenda.
This is not in the consent agenda, no. We need a motion and
3320, it is.
A motion really to accept the first reading, of policy number 3320.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
There's just a point of order, Madam Chair. At that point, that's when we ask for questions. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about what Mr. LePage just spoke of or comments, and then approve,
Any questions, any comments?
I would then move the question. That means we have to vote on it.
So we have to take a vote on this now? Is that what you're saying, Foster?
What you're doing is you're voting as a group saying that everything is okay and you approve.
Yeah.
When you table it, it gives people, public, to come forward if they feel that there's something wrong, you have time to discuss it, and then you can reapprove. That's why you approve first and then you table. So basically, you're saying it's okay, but you have to table it to see if the public has any comments or.
So what you're saying, Joan, is prior to this vote, we now should make a motion to table. Okay. So I'll make a motion to table so we can come back at this next month.
Second the motion.
Okay, so the next policy.
That we have to vote on. I'm sorry. That we do have to vote on. So.
Okay.
Policies are
complicated. I'm sorry.
I said policies are complicated.
I guess they are. So we need to take a vote on this?
Yes.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
voting on the motion to
Motion.
table till the next meeting.
Right.
Table it. Okay. I'm totally confused, but it's okay. I'll learn this as I go along, I guess. All right, so we're going to table this,
Yeah,
and
we
we're
have
going to
to
go
vote on
on
that.
to the next, or we're going to vote.
Yeah, vote to table it.
Vote to table.
So we would like to vote to table this. May I have the votes, please? Yes, no?
All those in favor of the
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we can go on to the next one, which is the,
Then I would, to make it parliamentary correctly, then we should have a motion, I think, to request approval of policy 51415, student suicide prevention.
And I'll do a second.
Second on, if there is, and then we could discuss it, which would be having Mr. LePage give us the highlights of the, if nobody wants it, then.
Well, I'll just say that this policy revision came from, all the policy revisions really come from updates to policy at the state level and into regulations that we have to better align with. I get regular updates from CABE, Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. I consult with their policy handbook. I also consult with Shipman and Goodwin at times to make sure that we're current. Our policy, this policy needed to be updated. This came to my attention at, I run the district Safe School Climate Committee. We have representatives from all the schools, school psychologists, Ms. Triano was mentioned earlier, and several others, and principals, Mr. Guarino. And we talk about various preventative measures that we're going to do and positive interventions that we're going to hold at the forefront each year. We create a plan that has to be posted on the website by state statute. So as part of that last year in the spring, we had a subcommittee meet and talk about our suicide prevention and intervention policy. So that's where this stemmed from, and it's really getting us current with best practice. And the main areas of it are general procedures during school hours, obligations, limitations of staff and training, assessment of what happens if there's imminent risk, at-risk situations, general procedures after school hours, and students who have made an attempt, and how we handle all those situations. And it has to be very clear, and then related training, once the policy is approved, will be provided as well. So that's really what that policy is meant to address. And the last time it was updated was 2003. So it's been 15 years. Not that the language in the old policy was terrible or it didn't accomplish what it needed to accomplish, but this is an improved policy in alignment with what we need to do.
I would agree, from a perspective of the staff, I think it gives them a lot better direction about what the expectations are with these situations, so it definitely needed updating.
That was a policy, I think, it hadn't been updated for some time.
Yeah,
15 years, yeah.
It needs attention.
okay, so we're going to make a motion to table this.
If there's no other discussion, yes, we can do that. I don't know if anybody else has a question or anything.
Are there any other questions?
No. Okay. Then I'll make a motion to table,
Second.
and that we need to
All in
vote on.
favor?
That's it. Yes, aye.
Mr. LePage, would you?
Okay, the next policy is a very heavy one. Literally 26 pages, and probably took double that number of hours to create, but it started with some training from the state that our former food service director and I attended, along with board member Becky Terrell, and regarding federal and state guidelines around local school wellness policy that's required of every district. It comes from the federal government and then through the state requirements. And there are 76 different key areas of this policy. I could go through each one if you'd like. I did share the policy with everyone at the policy subcommittee meeting, but in essence, it's really a comprehensive plan to ensure wellness of our students and our staff and in our community through many different things, everything from, as Mike Koch talked about earlier, our food service programs, what beverages you can and can't sell. He did that whole, well, actually, Mr. Bondi did that entire piece, and Mr. Koch approved it as well when he came on board. But I also formed a committee of about 16 members of the community, including including I needed a board member, and Mrs. Tyrell has experience in food service, so she served on that meeting last, I believe it was late May. The health and PE leadership from the town, Rob Silliman and Melissa Patterson, principals, Mr. Farrell, our athletic director. School nurse wasn't available, but she'll be serving. We're having a meeting next week to review this policy in more detail before the second reading happens, and other representatives from the community, from Healthy Plainville. And it's really a way of getting Plainville healthier and Plainville schools healthier through nutrition, fitness, and many other related wellness and health components, 76 of them to be exact. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if something comes up between now and the final reading, I can certainly address those. If you want, you could email me or give me a call. But it's everything from sales, fundraisers, celebrations, you name it, what you can sell, when you can sell it. Any questions?
So I'll make a motion to approve policy 5141 for a first reading, wellness policy.
Second. We already discussed it.
We did the discussion, so now we're going to motion to table.
I would move that we table this for the next board meeting.
Second.
I'm not sure. It's okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We just had one more.
Yes.
So you'll have to
Just one
make a
more.
motion.
You want to do a motion?
Yeah, I'll request we approve the policy for business transportation, policy number 3541.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
No?
No?
We're going to have,
Answer questions.
well, we're going to have Mr.
Okay, so
Page
now I'll give you an overview, and then you can make the decision whether to table it. So this is really a very simple adjustment because we have district-wide pre-K now, so just adding pre-K to the busing. This one's probably the easiest one. It just wasn't spelled out clearly about busing that's, transportation that's provided in district. So the pre-K is the same as K through 3. It's in the same range. Obviously, the expectation isn't that we're going to make our preschoolers or kindergartners or first through third graders walk a mile, but that's where the cutoff is for those grades. And then for grades 4 through 8, it's 1.5 miles. Grades 9 through 12, it's 2 miles. Is what you consider walkers, but obviously at those ages, they're being perhaps walked to school with an adult if it's close and they want to get a little morning exercise or afternoon. But often they're dropped off at the schools, and it's just parameters that we set as a district because of the way our transportation schedules are set up and who we transport and who we don't. It's not feasible to transport every single student, and no one does that in any district. So you set up different mile markers basically where you provide transportation. So this just spells it out for pre-K, adding them to the K through 3. Any questions on that?
No questions?
No questions, but the other thing I would just mention, I don't know if everybody noticed, the regulation part of all these policies is in our consent agenda, because technically we don't approve regulations, right? We're just approving the policy, but that is in our consent agenda, so, and that's appropriate, so.
It's a good point. And in this one, there wasn't a change in the policy. This was just a change in the regulation related to the policy. So.
So we have a motion to table?
I would move to table this until our next meeting.
Okay, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, the request for approval of child nutrition program new requirements. Mr. Ellis.
So this is a form that you approve every year. It's called the EDO 99. It's a contract that we have with the state for running our program. It used to be, I think, a 2-page form, and the state, in their wisdom, have turned it into a 16-page form.
Only
it's in
15,
your
Sam, only 15.
It's only 15 pages. The details are in your packet, but it's no surprises. It allows us to operate our program. And there's language for a motion in the middle of the first page that I could read, or one of you could read to make the motion.
Madam Chair, I can read it if you'd like.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve and comply with the new requirements of the presented child nutrition program, single agreement administered by the Connecticut State Department of Education, and to authorize Dr. Maureen Brummett, Superintendent of Schools, or her designee, to sign the ED 099 agreement for the district child's nutrition program, and to sign claims for reimbursement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve indoor track program.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
I second.
Aye.
Aye.